they're never satisfied because they're looking at people on Instagram who they can never be. And it's just so sad. Young girls who are watching, weddings, they're not even dating and they're planning their wedding. They're not planning their lives.
I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I'm in the stream of parenting, like that there's so many different things that kind of rush through my parenting in a daily basis that guide me and my kids along. And it feels easy to get into that stream because it seems to be moving in the way that we want to go. But what do we do when that stream actually maybe has a different goal or outcome, or it's going to a similar place, but not necessarily the place that we want to go? I think about that in terms of some of these new social media laws. A lot of them are designed to really protect kids' mental well-being. But what if, as parents, our goal isn't necessarily to protect their mental well-being, but to guide and equip them to have resiliency and even strength mentally, that we don't need to necessarily protect it, but we need to build it? How do we do that? Dr. Kathy today has some insights for us as we engage this topic that can often put us in maybe dark places. We're going to do it through the lens of a new social media movement that actually is being undertaken by Instagram. So let's turn now to Dr. Kathy Cook.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby. Not every light is gonna guide you.
So, Dr. Kathy, for the first time in its history, Instagram announced the launch of accounts designed specifically for teenage users with built-in privacy protections. The new accounts are called Teen Accounts, and they'll be automatic for all Instagram users under the age of 18, both for teens already using the app and for those who are signing up for it. By default, Instagram users younger than 16 will need a parent's permission to change their account settings. The changes, expected to impact tens of millions of users, were announced by Instagram head Adam Mosseri in a live interview on Good Morning America. In the interview, he says, quote, "They're an automatic set of protections for teens that try to proactively address the top concerns that we've heard from parents about teens online. Things like who can contact them, what content they see, and how much time they spend on their device, all without requiring any involvement from the parent," end quote. These settings that Morrissey has noted are really editable for users between 16 to 18 on their own. They don't need parental involvement. And we've seen really a rise in mental health issues for young people, even through the age of 26, specifically for females who are all using social media. And it's been linked to social media engagement, specifically even Instagram. How long should we expect a parent to really influence the settings of these teens' accounts? Is 16 too young of a bar? Should we extend this on through 18 or maybe even 21, like we might with, drinking or other things? Or is it wise for us to say, when you turn 16, you're kind of an adult and now you can set your own parameters? What are your thoughts on some of this?
Well, they're not adults at 16. Many of them are not acting like adults at 18. We know that a man's brain is finished at about age 25 and a woman's brain at about 23. And the last part of the brain to finish is the impulse control center. And I like to joke why God thought that was a good idea. I don't know. But we know that those things are true. It's why, frankly, a teenager who drives after drinking is more dangerous than an adult who drives after drinking. I don't recommend anybody drive after drinking, but if you look at the data on who's likely to have more accidents, it's going to be young people, and it's because their brain isn't finished. So I would love to say that parents are involved. If you live in my home and I pay for the device, then I'm involved. And if you don't like it, then give me back my device. Now, parents have to be tough and parents have to be confident in the things that we're saying. Parents need to be following people like us who can give them empowerment. In fact, let your teenagers listen with you so that you're not the bad guy. This is because I love you so much, because we love you so much, and we don't like that you're getting lost in the scroll. We are going to limit the amount of time that you can place here. We have so much evidence, Wayne, don't we, of the difficult comparisons that our young girls are making where they're never satisfied, because they're looking at people on Instagram who they can never be. And it's just so sad. Young girls who are watching, weddings. They're not even dating, and they're planning their wedding. They're not planning their lives because of what they're being influenced by on places like Instagram. So I'm happy to hear that this is happening. I'm frankly doubtful that, because I just have seen kids work around so many other kinds of situations, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, Dr. Kathy, I do think that there are always ways to work around, I call it the internet on training wheels, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you can't give kids part of a product. They're going to find a way to get around it and experience the full product. And we know that that's always a problem a little bit inside of especially teens because of what social media is really designed for. It actually targets our vices. Facebook and Instagram, really Meta, which controls both Facebook and Instagram, and then other sites too. It's really shown that they do target the things that we don't like about ourselves, but that actually makes us come back to the program or the platform more. With that said, how do we actually teach our kids that these products target our vices? And how to maybe even teach our kids that these ideas of, speaking out on some topics on social media might not actually be a good thing, or maybe even adjusting our dietary practices, or, when we look in the mirror, we don't see enough muscles, that those are real things that we should, maybe hit pause on. How do we teach our kids and guide them to understand that social media companies maybe don't have the best in mind for us? And actually, by nature, they do target the things that we might not like about ourselves.
Yeah, it's a great question. I wonder if we could make a list as a family, or a class in school if you wanted to do it there. Make a list of all the things that bother you, or all the things that concern you, or maybe the things that make you angry. And then give the assignment of looking at your Facebook screen, not Facebook, your Instagram. Look at your Instagram feed for X amount of hours or minutes, 20 minutes every day for 4 days in a row or whatever, and see what crops up. I mean, I wonder if there could be that they would begin to see the correlation, that they're being manipulated, that people respond to the things that make them angry, and then they want to keep there and wonder who else feels the same way. I don't know. I wonder if, Wayne, I'll back it up and say, I don't think we teach young people enough about discernment in general, about discerning good from bad, and right from wrong, and healthy from unhealthy, complete from incomplete, biased from not biased. I don't think we teach it in general. And I wonder if we actually need to back it up a bit and start teaching thinking, critical thinking and discernment with billboards and bus ads and media and headlines, and maybe even watching the news, critiquing debates and watching what's happening, so kids begin to see, wait a second, that was a lie. Why did they do that? Well, because they want you to think less of yourself, or they want you to feel dependent upon them. Could we teach they're so prone to believe in their tech. My technology loves me, which is such a lie, that maybe we wouldn't get through to them as much as we could if we started with something other than tech, and then show them what's happening with our tech. One example, and this isn't exactly what you're talking about, but I remember being at Summit Ministries with the 16 to 23-year-olds who we love, and saying to them, how many of you, I'll rent a car, and within 10 minutes, I'll have an ad on my Facebook wall from that car company. I'll check into a hotel, and within 10 minutes, I'll notice an ad on my Facebook wall from that hotel company, just as examples. Or again, ordering out from food, DoorDash, and having food come from a restaurant, and within 10 minutes, there's an ad that I've not seen before, because I don't follow that chain, on my Facebook wall. And I'll say to the young people, how many of you like that? And they all raise their hands that it's cool. Most of them think it's cool. I'm in control. Look at what I made happen. They know me, and they know that I like them, and they like that feeling. I think it's disgusting. And then we would explain why we think it's disgusting. It's an invasion of privacy. And what do they need to know that for? And is that going to motivate me to buy from them again? I actually might respond in the opposite way. So I do think there's a lot of ways that we can talk about it. I love your question, because I think we should be talking.
Yeah, Dr. Kathy, I do think we should really be talking, and partly because I think that so much of this ends up driving how kids perceive themselves or even think about themselves. So much of what social media does seems to really reinforce or challenge what kids are taught about who they are. Why does social media have such a grip on the identity of young people? You've written a lot about identity formation. So I want to ask, why does social media have maybe even a larger share of authority than parents do, or even scripture do for many students?
The first thing I think of is something that you were addressing earlier, and that is that social media acts like it knows us. And so if you're on the social media feed and they're feeding you what they know you like, they've paid attention to where you like and where you click and what links you tend to, click and follow through on. And so you can be on a social media feed for a while and feel like you're known and feel like you're significant and important and valued. And those are all things that we desire. We want to be known. God created us in his image. He knows us more than we'll know ourselves. He calls us by name. We read in Psalm 139 and other places that while he formed us, he knew us. And so we are created, known. So we have a desire to be known. And maybe sometimes parents are distant. Parents can be overwhelmed and busy and distracted. And I don't say that to be harsh, but it's true. A lot of kids tell me that they wish their parents would put down their phones. So I wonder if being on the social media scroll is enticing. It's, for the most part, it's positive. It's uplifting. It doesn't critique us like Scripture would critique us. Scripture does include the 7 deadly sins and the 10 commandments and the fruit of the Spirit we're supposed to exhibit and all these other things. And it can be a life letter. It is a life letter, love letter. Scripture is encouraging. Scripture is edifying. Scripture is also convicting through the work of the Spirit. And I'm grateful for that. As a believer who's walked with God for many years, I'm grateful that the Spirit points out to me, Kathy, you fall short here. But yet, if there's a teenager who doesn't yet know Jesus or is just walking wounded early on in their faith journey, they may not see Scripture with that same positive outcome. We can help them see it as a gift and a blessing, but yet they may not yet. And yet social media rarely would call out of them their sin, they think, and that might be why they like it.
As Dr. Kathy was talking today, it reminded me of a passage that comes out of John chapter 1, and I'll begin reading at verse 47. Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him, and he said to him, "Behold, an Israelite, indeed, in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" And Jesus answered him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." I wonder if for our kids, if we noticed them more, if we spent time saying, "I've seen you doing this thing, and I know it, and I'm noticing it." I wonder what that would do to them, specifically even inside of things like they're doing within social media. Sometimes when we do this as parents, we do it with a sense of judgment. We do it with a sense of correction. Hey, I noticed that you've been doing this thing, and now I want to tell you what I think about it. But what if we did it almost in the way that Jesus is doing here? Hey, I saw you there, and I recognized you, or I acknowledged you, or I'm honoring you. I see you doing that thing, or I see you in that place. And I just want you to know I see you there. And I see you there as somebody that is now going to contribute to a grander story, even to ask, what were you thinking? Or what were you up to? Or what were you doing? Not that I want to pass judgment. I just want to know. I want to understand you. I think this passage where Jesus recognizes Nathanael is a powerful passage, and maybe something for us as we're understanding how to engage our kids within really a social media network. Sometimes the biggest thing, and maybe the only reason that they turn to their phone so often, is that they don't feel known inside of this world, inside of the real tangible world. What if we took time and built some security and belonging by recognizing their identity in this moment? I wonder if that would give them purpose and competence to complete the pyramid that Dr. Kathy builds on how identity is formed. Let's step forward today, recognize our kids, and notice them and know them. I think doing that can be a bright light that'll shine and cut through whatever dark things are around the corner for them. I want to thank you for listening to the Celebrate Kids podcast, this daily segment, Facing the Dark. Dr. Kathy and I are so glad that you're joining us this week, and we're really looking forward to seeing you here again tomorrow.